October 30th, 2014, a Russian pilot named Sergei Galitsky, along with his translator, walked into the Flight Safety International building in Wichita, Kansas. This building was inside of the Wichita National Airport, and it was a big training facility for pilots. Once inside, Sergei walked up to the front desk and explained to the clerk in Russian that he was here that day to try to get a certification for a particular type of Cessna plane. His translator then repeated what he said in English to the clerk, at which point the clerk nodded and said they would go back and get Sergei's instructor. The clerk returned, now with a 78-year-old man named Jay Ferguson, who was the instructor. Sergei had been a pilot for over 30 years. He had loads of experience flying, but today he was learning how to fly a mid-tier plane. He had to do a couple of simulated flights inside of the simulator. Sergei went in and he saw that the inside was an exact replica of the inside of a Cessna. Even out the windows, it appeared like they actually were situated on a real airport runway. And so Sergei sat down in the pilot's seat, Jay took a seat next to him, and the translator took a seat behind both of them. Jay and Sergei went through the mandatory pre-flight safety checks, something you would do on any flight. Once they were done, Jay pressed a button, which turned on the engine. The pod began to rumble like this was a real plane. Then, once Jay gave Sergei the green light, Sergei released the brakes, at which point it very much appeared like the plane began to roll forward. Once Sergei had positioned the plane on the runway, hit the gas, and the pod throttled back as the plane rocketed down the runway, and before long they took off and they were up into the sky. Sergei found the Cessna was a little bit more sensitive than the other aircrafts he had flown before. Once he was feeling pretty comfortable, and he relayed as much to Jay, Jay began relaying directions and feedback to Sergei through the translator, testing Sergei's ability to fly this craft. Sergei felt like he was doing a really good job, and Jay as well felt like this had gone really well, and Sergei had effectively passed his test. A decision was made to go ahead and land this plane back on the runway. Sergei circled around, and he angled the plane right alongside the runway, came down, and he was taking his time, and everything was going exactly right, and then right as the wheels of this plane touched the runway, there was this loud crashing sound, and then everything went black. At the same time this was happening, folks standing outside of the Flight Safety International building heard this loud crashing sound, and they looked in the direction, which is toward the Flight Safety building, and they saw there was this massive fire and black cloud of smoke coming up from the backside of the building. When first responders arrived on scene, they discovered evidence of a plane crash. It would turn out there was another pilot named Mark Goldstein who was flying that day out of Wichita National Airport, except Mark was flying an actual plane. He was the only passenger inside of a 6-seat passenger plane. And pretty much as soon as he took off, he lost control and he crashed through the walls of the Flight Safety International building. Specifically, he struck the flight simulator where Jay, Sergei, and his translator were busy trying to land their digital flight. The plane crash, along with subsequent fiery explosion, claimed the lives of Mark, Jay, Sergei, and his translator.